Hello, beautiful people. It's Lulu. Welcome to the Lulu Essie podcast, where we explore mental fitness, self-love, and self-worth by following your own blueprint on your own terms and at your own pace. These are unedited, honest conversations with practical tools that meet you exactly where you are. I invite you to open your hearts and your minds as we get into today's conversation. You can't love anyone fully until you love yourself. This statement has been sitting with me, choking me, for a long time now. I have felt it in my bones for years, but haven't addressed it on this podcast until now. And I'd like you to consider it with me, slowly, because it's one of those things that gets repeated so often that we stop questioning it. We almost automatically accept that if so many people are saying it, then it must be true. You can't love anyone else until you love yourself. Is this really the truth? Really? And more than that, could it be hurting people? Real people? Maybe even hurting you? Let me start with a client in a very real moment recently. They were on Zoom and they were unusually quiet for a long time. I just let the silence be, and then they said very softly, "I don't think my love is real. I don't think I'm capable of loving them the way they deserve to be loved." My client was referring to their partner, a person who by every account was good to my client. They felt safe with their partner and loved them. My client also knew their partner loved them. The love was unquestionably mutual. So why then were they thinking that the love they felt for their partner was somehow lesser than, somehow maybe fake, or a broken version of love? Why? Well, in their own words, they felt that way because they didn't feel love for themselves yet. And I asked my client where that came from. And what they told me is that it came from a message that seemed to be everywhere. And that message was, if you can't love yourself, then you are not able to love anyone else. And that is exactly what I'd like us to question today, to really examine objectively. Is this true? Why? I think our culture has adopted that as truth in many cases, and it's hurting and damaging people who are already loving others beautifully, powerfully, meaningfully. Let's think about this statement and then look at the mother who can barely get out of bed in the morning, who is carrying depression she hasn't told anyone about, who thinks about herself with more cruelty than she would ever speak to another person. And she still shows up at school pickup with a smile for her child. That love is real. That child is being loved by their mother. Let's think about the friend who is drowning in their own self-criticism, who cannot find a single kind thing to say about themselves, and who still answers the phone when you call in tears. That love is real. You are being loved by your friend. What about the partner who looks in the mirror and sees someone they don't like, and who still makes you coffee in the morning, still remembers your anniversary, still holds your hand when you're waiting for test results. That love is real. That person is being loved by their partner, and maybe that person is you. I could go on. You could go on, because this is everywhere once you start looking for it. People who don't love themselves and are loving other people deeply, consistently, and sustainably every single day. Entire families are being held together by people who do not feel worthy of the love that they are giving. And when that line is repeated, you can't love anyone else until you love yourself. Those people are being told that what they are doing is somehow not real, that they are offering a broken version of love, that their love doesn't count until they've earned it through inner work. I want to acknowledge how cruel that is. Not in intention necessarily. The people who say it usually mean well. But it is cruel in its impact. It is simply, painfully cruel. It takes something sacred, the love that a struggling human is giving anyway, and it tells them that that love doesn't count. I want to be mindful here because I don't think the phrase came from nowhere. There is something real buried far underneath it. It's like that phrase was trying to express a truth, and then it flattened, distorted into something that does way more harm than good. Here's what I think it was trying to say. When we don't love ourselves, we sometimes carry old patterns into the way we love other people. Patterns we learned in childhood, patterns we inherited from past relationships, patterns our nervous system picked up long before we had the words for any of this. We might struggle to receive love even when it's right in front of us. We might choose people who reinforce the damaging beliefs we already believe about ourselves, unkind things we believe about ourselves. We might dissolve completely into another person and lose ourselves in the process. Maybe we push love away before it can hurt us, before it can even touch us. That is real. That is all real. And it's worth looking at. And yes, it's worth working on. It's part of why I do this podcast. But that is not the same as not being able to love. It is not the same as not being able to express your love for another. What that is friction in the loving. It is something our system is doing because it learned to do it, not because we are incapable of love. And the distinction really matters. Because one of those situations is workable, and one of those situations is a verdict. Telling someone they can't love until they love themselves is a verdict. It closes a door. In fact, it slams a door shut. I'll tell you how this showed up in my life. Many of you know that I spent decades, and I truly mean decades, in a place that was not just a lack of self-love. It was self-hatred, real, daily, blistering self-hatred. I've been open about this on this podcast before, and I'll keep being open about it because it matters. And here is what I also know with absolute certainty from that same time in my life. I loved my mother with everything I had, every single day that she was alive, and every single day since she's been gone. I have loved her with a depth that I just cannot put into words that would express it fully enough. I loved my siblings. I still do, deeply, fiercely, in a way that has shaped who I am. And I don't have children of my own. And still, the love I feel for my nieces and nephews is one of the most expansive, most complete experiences of love I have ever known. During all of that time, I had no idea what it was to love myself. I was clueless. I could not have told you what self-love felt like if you had paid me. I did not have access to it, and I did not believe I deserved it. And yet, I absolutely, without question, knew what it was to feel a deep, profound love for another human being. I hated myself, and I loved them. Both were true at the same time. For years, for decades, I felt both, and both were my reality. So when someone tells me that you can't love anyone else until you love yourself, I know it is not true. I know it because I lived the opposite. And I know that millions of other people are living the opposite right now. And I'm not willing to stay quiet about it, because I don't want anyone listening to this to ever doubt the love they are giving. I don't want anyone listening to this to look at the love in their own life and think it's somehow not real because they haven't done the inner work, or they haven't so-called fixed themselves first. Most of us need to do the inner work. But this idea that we need to fix ourselves is very problematic for me. Here is what I'd like you to take from our conversation today. Connection is often where the healing happens, not in the waiting room before the healing. Some people find their way to self-love through the experience of loving someone else. The love you are already giving can become the evidence that lights your path to self-love. Your showing up, your consistency, your not leaving when it gets hard, that can be the thing that slowly, quietly teaches you something about who you are underneath the painful story you've been telling yourself. You are not disqualified from self-love. You are not on the bench, and you don't have to wait. And if you needed to hear this today, I'd like you to hear it from me with absolutely no reservation. Your love is real. If you can feel it, it is real. If you are giving it, it is real. If someone is receiving it, it is real. No sentence, no meme, no caption, no well-meaning influences on social media get to override what you know in your own body about what you feel for the people in your life. 2 weeks ago, I talked about how you don't have to like yourself to start loving yourself. And last week, we talked about self-abandonment and what it costs us. And today, I want to remove one more obstacle on your path to self-love. Because there are too many obstacles, too many barriers, too many pretend prerequisites, too many versions of people telling you you're not ready yet. And I don't believe any of them are helping us. Self-love is a daily practice. It is something we come back to again and again, in whatever way we can, on whatever day we can. It is not a qualification you earn before you're allowed to love or be loved. It's a place you walk towards while you are already in the middle of your life, your glorious, messy life. And while you are already loving the people you love, already receiving love, whether you feel you deserve it or not. If this episode spoke to you, I'd love it if you'd share it with people you feel need to be soothed by this message. And if you haven't already, please subscribe on YouTube or follow this podcast wherever you listen, because it makes a real difference to getting this message to people who could benefit from hearing it. What comes from the heart reaches the heart. And today, knowing that the love you give is real, this comes straight from my heart to yours. Let's meet together next week. I'll be here.